Good morning, afternoon, evening, folks of all makes and models. I wanted to do another semi-regular channel update to let you know how things are going, what upcoming plans there are in the pipe, and of course, shill my own stuff on my own stuff, which seems about the most ethical place shilling can ever occur. Guess that technically makes this an ad, according to the FTC, which I'm not accountable to because of Canada. I've been doing a lot of background planning because one of my biggest issues is properly scheduling my time. The new job allows me some freedom in how I schedule my days, so I'm going to take advantage of that and start to piece together more regular content of a variety of types so that I can really be back in the swing of things. To start with, the news wrap-up will of course continue to be a regular mainstay of the channel. It's the easiest video type that I produce, and it takes about 3 to 5 hours from start to finish, so it's easy to bang out on a Saturday afternoon, assuming no news happens Saturday evening. You may have noticed a change to how I structure it, with the title story leading the video, and with a new end feature, the uplifting story of the week. It really fleshes out the show, so thanks to all who have given feedback and suggestions along the way. I'm also going to try an experiment. I haven't liked my reviews for quite some time. Frankly, I think that they're crap. I want to be able to give my impressions of games and show people things worth their time, but I don't feel that my script or speaking style works well in that format. They always sound forced, even though they aren't, and I get a little too middle of the road on small indie games because honestly, it's hard for me to personally tear down the last 3 or 4 years of work of a team of only 3 or 4 people. Massive AAA studio, no problem. Little indie dev, I feel like I'm killing puppies. If you saw my South Park video, you'll know what I'm talking about. Generally, you see retrospective content months or years after a game comes out. People will talk about a specific feature or theme from a game and do a deep dive into it. So what I want to do is try to put up a feature of a brand new game release on the wall and discuss it in depth. The tentative name is Feature Focus, and my current project is a deep dive into emergent storytelling in XCOM 2. If all works as planned, when I get early review code access to a game, I should be able to go through the game and rather than review the whole product, pick out a notable feature and give some real background and description of the form, function, and just how it plays. Would have been something that is a great showcase of things like the tutorial in Dark Souls, or the Shadow of Mordor Nemesis system to give some examples. In the case of XCOM, I had an amazing mission with some really interesting things happening that was totally not a scripted thing, but because of systems for access put into the game, turned into an amazing little story inside the story. I feel that this might fit my style of analysis better than a full broad review, where you'd get at most 30 to 60 seconds on a particular aspect of the game. And while I know it's not something that everyone is interested in, I'm going to be putting a bit more of an emphasis on Patreon over the next little while. Content on the channel will always remain open and free to watch, but things like stream involvement, early viewing of some stuff, that's going to happen more often. I'm rounding out the Patreon tiers and have already started single-player streams where I can name characters after patrons and then horribly kill their virtual likenesses in games like XCOM and stuff like that. Currently, the target is to do these on Tuesday nights starting at about 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'm adjusting my workflow to bring the feedback loop back into the content lineup as well. It took a lot more prep than I initially thought that it would, so I need to streamline it a bit, and we had a good one on the Tuesday stream last week that was fun to do, so maybe a 20 to 30 minute feedback loop monologue is really where the problem is, and a 10 to 15 minute talk would be much easier on me from a production standpoint. For those interested in seeing show notes, scripts, and such, there's a Patreon tier for that now, and I'll be expanding things further as I develop new ways to reward folks who support my stuff. There was a suggestion for physical merchandise, specifically gnome hats with people's names on them, which I'm sure nobody would ever wear but might be fun to do either way, so I'm looking into that. Personally, I think a good t-shirt or two would be better, but that's just me. And that brings us to feature creep. Nothing is changing here. I put up a poll on Patreon asking about the whole monetization issue. As you probably know, I don't monetize them myself as a way to say that my flagship series is a viewer-funded initiative. The majority of patrons said that, you know what, you should just go ahead and monetize them. The more I thought about it though, the more I realized that I really like being able to show and talk about the value that the folks on Patreon are providing. It feels fair to me to call them out and say, these guys and gals are funding this show, thank you very much. One has to be careful talking about money on YouTube, but I can say that the patrons absolutely and several times over eclipse any revenue that the channel earns from ads, and that was before the adpocalypse gutted everything. The Patreon campaign has paid for some incredible stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do without it. The HTC Vive, being able to attend PAX in Seattle, where I actually got recognized by people randomly on the show floor, which I was totally not ready to experience. With any luck, My next goal is to acquire acoustic foam panels to get rid of some of the echo in my recordings. So thank you very much to those who are supporting the channel, because YouTube sure as hell isn't going to support content like mine at all, ever. Finally, I have 2 new things that will be happening on a monthly basis at the moment. The first is a monthly Q&A video, which will probably be a live stream first and upload to YouTube after. You can send questions of any kind my way in the comments below on Discord, Twitter, Patreon via messages, or gnomecast@gmail.com. They don't have to be about gaming necessarily. It could be life in general, recording setup, gaming, not gaming, what's the weather gonna be like. I don't really care. I'll answer whatever I can and get a video up by the end of the month. And the second new thing is going to be the return of the GNOMECAST. I named the channel after intending to do podcasting many years ago, and then in all of that time, I only ever did one. GNOMECAST will be a monthly podcast streamed to Twitch with the VOD uploaded to the YouTube channel afterwards. My intent long term is to invite guests on that are experts in their field or notable personalities of some kind, but I also want to include patrons in this as well. I've found that the folks on Patreon are a very mature, well-reasoned group for the most part, and think that we could get some great discussions going. The current target for November is going to be recording and streaming the show on Saturday, November 4th at 11 AM Mountain Standard Time. I know that screws over Australia, and I'm sorry for that, but I gotta follow the demographics. The only stipulations are that patrons who are not on Discord have to let me know that they're interested, and you've got to have a webcam and a decent mic. It doesn't have to be a full studio recording setup, but a basic headset mic is a bare minimum. The takeaway from all of this, and why I'm leveraging Patreon itself more, is because I've long since come to the conclusion that even if I got to be a channel of significant size, it would be difficult to do this for a living precisely because of YouTube. YouTube is a great platform, but it's just never going to be that amazing funding source that would allow me to go full time. And that's really what I want. I would love to be making videos every day. That would be amazing. Patreon might. So if you like that idea, I'm beyond thankful for folks that do support the channel that way. I'm also in the Twitch Affiliates program, which allows for a sub button there, and that would be a great way to burn that Amazon Prime sub that you may or may not be using. Anyway, thank you very much to all the people who watch the content that I put out. It's amazing to try and imagine the number of people listening to me, and frankly, after this many years of making videos, that's a huge part of the reason why I still spend so much time working on it. You lot make it all worthwhile, so thank you. Whether you're on Patreon, whether you just like a video, whether you troll me in the comments, or just lurk. Thank you all.